So note for the record that Kathy's unable to be here this evening. She's going to zoom in, but the weather interfered with her travel. So, and I believe Maureen Lewis is on.
She's on.
She's on. Great. Thank you for joining us, Maureen. And Marianne is on vacation. So, okay. So we have. All right. Item number 2, the school community session, any public participation? And before we call for any public participation, do you have any rules you want to read out?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. The board welcomes public comment at our meetings. We do ask that when you're speaking, you state your name and your address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. I will give folks a notice when you have 30 seconds left, and again, when your time is up. The board is happy to hear from our community, but it should be noted that at a business meeting such as tonight's, it's not expected that we or the board or the administration will respond. So public comment period is not a time for public discussion. If necessary, the community member will be contacted follow up. So if you're joining us tonight via Zoom, we ask that you raise your hand and will be called upon. If we have members of the public in person who would like to speak. See you, Wendy. Okay, another opportunity later. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 3, the Board of Education Student Representatives Report. Lucy and Eli, take it away.
So,
Welcome back.
thank you. First week of school went really well. A lot of energy in the buildings. It's great to have everyone in person. It seemed like for a time we could never say that again. So it's really great. On that back to school note, this Thursday night we have at the high school back to school night. So we really encourage parents, guardians to attend. First in-person one we've had in a few years. I know Mr. Sadi Terry will be speaking, but I would just really recommend and encourage anyone that wants to go to go. On another note, we have sports. Our fall seasons have started up. I'm a member of the volleyball team. Eli's on the soccer team. A few teams have scrimmaged. I know our last volleyball scrimmage, we were one of 4 teams. We won 3 out of 4 games. Unfortunately, the one we lost was to Guilford. We'll see them again in the regular season and get some revenge, hopefully. This Thursday, actually after Parents' Night, we have our official season opener against Amity. So after going to back to school night, if you want to head over to the gym, support our team, greatly appreciated. Cross country also has their opening meet on Thursday. Football is back, Friday Night Lights. East Lyme is our first game. That's a home game, 7 o'clock. Saturday, we got a lot of games. Girls and boys doubleheader against Guilford. We'd love to see a lot of support at both games. Actually, that morning, we also have a volleyball game against Greenwich. That's home as well. Field hockey, girls swim and dive have a game on Tuesday. And then tomorrow we have the SCC, which is our Southern Connecticut Conference, our League of Sports, our fall sports captains meeting, and that's taking place at Hill House. They're expecting about 400 captains from across our state area of Connecticut to attend. That's from 9 to 12 tomorrow. And then we also have a student leadership meeting this Friday, and we're going to prepare for the Spirit Days leading up to September 23rd. That's our school Spirit Day. So as a senior, we'll be wearing blue on that day. And I just know that's one of the many things everyone's looking forward to last year at school, high school. And then that's just always a really big event. Go out on the lawn, have a breakfast and whatnot. On the flip side of the senior year, we have started our common applications if people are choosing to go to college. And that's a little bit stressful, working that in with regular schoolwork. I just asked a few teachers for letters of recommendation in the past week, so it's setting in that high school's almost over, for sure.
Tomorrow will be our first Wellness Wednesday of the year, which I know is one of the highlights of my Wednesday, if not my week. I know that's true for a lot of students and teachers alike. PAW and advisory groups met a few times in the past week to talk about lockdowns, fire drills, and advisory will start next week, which was, we will be put in groups which were selected by the kids, which is meant to be a environment where we can discuss more sensitive topics and you're around people that you're comfortable discussing things around. It will be a part of Wellness Wednesday, meaning that we'll have an hour chunk out of our day. 30 minutes of it will be advisory and 30 minutes of it will be Wellness Wednesday. And hopefully going forward, we'll have that at least 3 times a month. For underclassmen, school picture day, definitely gets me nervous every year to go home and have my mom tell me you wore the wrong shirt, part of your hair the right way, and I just say I'm sorry, Mom. Which is next Wednesday, September the 14th.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. We're saving it up all through the summer, I see. That was good. Thank you. You guys need to split to do homework or college applications, right?
Thank you.
Free.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Good luck. Have a great year.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, now moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cook, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Klaskin. It's great to see a packed house tonight. I know the weather didn't cooperate too much, but we have a standing room only crowd here for those in the audience or those online that can't see. It's great to see everybody. So we're here tonight to recognize our award-winning unified sports in Madison Public Schools, and I can say that because we win multiple awards. So last year, Ryerson was recognized as ESPN's Unified Connecticut School of the Year, and that includes K through 12 schools. And then just today, we received word that Jeffrey received the Unified Champion National Banner School was awarded. Upcoming word on that recognition will be forthcoming, I'm sure. For those online, because I know everybody in here knows this, but Unified Sports joins people with and without disabilities to have fun and play on the same team. It was inspired by a simple principle. Training together and playing together is a quick path to friendship and understanding. It really is a highlight, I think, our staff that volunteer all of their time to make this happen. I see big smiles on our staff's faces, but also on mostly on our students' faces as well. Our 3 principals are here. I'd like to ask them to come up and introduce who's with them and share a few words. Becky Frost from Jeffrey, you could start. Oh, yeah.
All right, I can start. I'm very excited to introduce our Jeffrey team. This past spring, it was led by our coaches, Lisa Aronson. Stand up. Lisa Aronson. And her colleague, Christine Crouch, also our special education. Not only the Unified Sports Program in the spring, but Lisa and Christine really championed our Unified School programs, which encompasses more than just sports. It's programs that we run throughout the year. It's 3rd grade leadership clubs, weaving it and infusing in that idea of acceptance, diversity, inclusion into everything we do at Jeffrey School. And I'm proud to say we have some of our athletes here with us. Alex Gear, if you want to stand up. Nice job this spring, Alex. Sam Sislow. Sawyer Lane. From Jeffrey, right? Yes, awesome. So a big thank you to our coaches. Obviously, we could not do this without them. And just to expand a little bit on what Dr. Cook mentioned, at 4 p.m. today, we got that notification that we are a recipient of the national award. So just goes to show you how, above and beyond, not only Jeffrey's team, but Ryerson and Brown. And was really beautiful this spring too, how all of the teams work together. For those of you that were either to be able to be a part of or see the pictures online or the news articles about the K-5 end of the season championship, why am I drawing blank on the name, pep rally that we had with all the schools. So that was really fun to celebrate together as a Madison community. So I'll turn it over to Ryerson.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Thank you to the Board of Education and Dr. Cook for having us this evening to recognize all of our schools and the event that took place in June. We had a culminating event where all 3 schools came together. We had practice throughout the school year. And for all of these events that were going to be happening with the kids and with our staff. And the most important piece of making this happen, both the June event and all the practices and sessions that happened during the school year, is based on the volunteers that we have in all the buildings. And those, it couldn't be possible without the staff support, as well as the parents' support. And just that while we had fun all throughout, that event at the end was pretty fantastic to come together as a community. I'm so happy to have our coach here tonight for Ryerson School, Robin Sawyer. She really has led this charge. A really quick meeting that Robin said, let me talk to you about something that would be really cool to bring into the system. And it has been phenomenal. So I thank her for that. And so many staff and students have benefited from that idea. So thank you so much. Along with tonight, we have Andrea Creaser here, who has also been a volunteer. Colleen Burkle, a Ryerson staff volunteer. And Erin. And to our Ryerson athletes who came tonight. So please stand when I call your name. So thank you. Sarah Rosenthal. Harper Sheps. Violet Walton. Am I for Ryerson? Are we good? Did I not? I don't want to miss anybody. All right. Well, thank you to our athletes, and thank you again for supporting this really fun and important event for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It really was amazing to watch over the course of the school year. And, Melissa and Carrie spearheaded for us. I'll introduce them in a minute. But then we had this grandiose idea that we do everything at one place at the end of the year. Might work, and it really did. It rained. But, when you looked around that gym, you saw well over 100 adults who had volunteered, not only that day, but at the different schools through the course of the year. And it was just awesome to see every student involved in all the schools came to one place, all the parents, and we're going to go bigger and better next year. We're going to control the weather a little bit. But it really was an awesome event. But even leading up to that, though, week to week, over at Brown, Carrie and Melissa had different activities. We had, again, so many teacher volunteers. You had paraprofessionals. I think even the parents at the end were just, amazed at how many people just cared so much about having fun with the students and enjoyed the camaraderie. But like I said, there was a lot of volunteerism. So from Brown School, we have the infamous Gabe Gonzalez representing. Next year for sure. We have Melissa Griffin and Carrie Tucker, who are our 2 coaches.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Just in addition to all of the staff support, I think we certainly could have done it without the leadership in our special education department. So just wanted to give a shout out to Mrs. Sherry Farmer. She's our special education coordinator at the elementary level, who was there at every practice and every championship game. And I know Dr. Battaglia wanted to be here very badly tonight, our director of special education, to congratulate all the coaches and the players. So I want to thank both of them for their support as well.
So thank you, parents as well, for for coming tonight. It's great to see all of you, and I know many of you attended the event that was so successful. So thank you, and I'm thrilled to hear it's going to happen again this year. So
Absolutely.
it's fantastic.
Now, normally we ask you all to stay here for the full meeting. We'll let you go. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah, all right, I gotta go look for it. Just, well, so you-
All right, it's clearing out a little bit, so just another couple seconds. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so to continue with the report, just wanted to share, felt we had a very strong start to the school year. It was very smooth. Few bus issues, as is normal the first week, where we might run behind on some runs, but we seem to have that under control and in place. We continue to have a couple teacher openings and a relatively large number of paraprofessional openings, about 17 paraprofessional openings. So we are working to fill those, and then I think we're at the point with some of the para positions, we're going to look at different ways to address student needs and support our students. And so we're meeting with the administrators tomorrow to have some more discussion on that. So we'll keep the board updated on that. We hope to fill the teacher positions by the end of the week. Unofficial enrollment is 2,432 students. As the board knows, October 1 is our official date, so we will give you a formal report at that point of where things look like in terms of our enrollment. It's about what was predicted, so our projections were pretty much spot on from our two firms that did enrollment projections for us. Not on my list today, but I did want to share, I've had several discussions with the principal at high school as a graduation date. So we were looking at June 16th as our graduation date. We are now by state law able to set graduation. Date used to be, had to wait till April 1, but our families, our students have really appreciated the earlier notice. For us, Thursdays are not available, so we're looking at Friday, which has been a popular date. It would mean that we'd have 4 days after the last planned day of school. So if we didn't have snow, we might maybe look to adjust that, but according to the Farmer's Almanac, we're gonna have some snow this year, or ice or other, weather delays. So I think it's probably prudent to anticipate, those 4 days there. So we would confirm that and announce it shortly to the high school students who are asking pretty much every day. Wanted to share the results of a compliance report. The board's been aware of this. Madison was selected by the state for the civil rights audit last year, based on the career and technical education course enrollment by gender, race, and ethnicity, ELL status, and disability status. So each year the state selects about 5 to 6 high schools to do this report on. I've heard from a couple other superintendents who are going through the report. I'm pleased to share that the investigation has been closed. No major concerns or issues, nothing for us to follow up. They did have some recommendations for us to continue. And so when I see that they're asking us to continue something, I think they're recognizing that we're doing that work and that we're on that path and that we need to keep heading in that direction. So those 3 major recommendations were to continue to provide professional development to faculty and staff on cultural sensitivity and culturally responsive education, continue to implement different strategies to help educate students about Title IX and the role of the Title IX coordinator, and continue to provide professional development to update faculty and staff on non-discrimination policies and practices, Title IX, Section 504. So as I've shared, those are things that we do trainings for our students on. We do trainings for our staff on. So we're pleased to close that. I want to thank Principal Solitary. The request for information was immense. When I saw that at first, I was more concerned than he was, knowing I knew he would have to do the vast majority of that, collecting data, but he looked at it and just started plugging away, and the state was complimentary about his efforts in that. And again, talking to colleagues, I know some are still going through this because they're still pulling the information together. So I know he relied on staff, some other staff to do that, but I really appreciate TJ and the work he did to get that completed. And then also wanted to share each year in September, we provide the board with a personnel report in terms of our new hires and our new certified hires as well, being teachers and administrators in particular. And so we wanted to share that in our efforts to recruit and select a more diverse workforce here in Madison Public Schools. It has been a challenge with teacher shortages throughout the state, throughout the nation, but I think each year we try and reach more of an audience and get a broader selection of candidates. And we have principals that go out to colleges to do mock interviews, to do interviews. Gail Dowling has joined a couple of online and in-person recruitment fairs, and so we really try to do that. Heather Dotson is constantly looking for new places to post our openings and do that selection. So we're pleased with our efforts, but we want to do more to continue that going forward. So that.
Can I give a shout out to Leslie Lopez, who also came to recruitment fairs as a teacher rep. She was very enthusiastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to deny Leslie Lopez.
And there have been times where you can sit behind a booth and wait for teacher candidates to join you, and there might be a very, very long line. Madison is an attractive place to work in, and so I know that there's been times before where you just sat behind the booth. This is not that time. I think Gail was grabbing future teachers, that hadn't even graduated yet, trying to interview
Active
them.
recording.
Yeah. So,
Talking about us, we're great.
yeah, they were walking around trying to find candidates for some hard to fill jobs. So they did a great job.
Maybe next year we'll get a t-shirt cannon on our.
Right.
Yeah.
I try, I have the best swag, I'm always like, whatever. Let me give you something.
But we do appreciate those efforts because that will pay off over time. So
Yeah.
thank you.
We had a great time.
That's great. And Ms. Lopez as well.
All right.
Correct, thank you very much. Now it's time for board member comments, and I'll start with a couple quick comments. I attended the convocation a couple weeks ago. It was a very successful convocation, high level of energy. For those who don't know, the convocation is a program that we have at the beginning of each school year where all the teachers and para educators and staff come together, have a little bit of breakfast, and have an energizing program to kick off the school year. And we must have had a lot of pent up energy for this because of COVID. It was canceled over the last couple of years prior. So this was a very successful, high energy convocation. It was an honor to be a part of it. And I think you were talking about possibly doing it as a lunch instead of a breakfast in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about next year, maybe is what has traditionally happened, and it was very nice. Food service puts on a wonderful breakfast spread, but it's a challenge to get people in and then have them sit for 2.5, 3 hours or so. So we thought of maybe having lunch in between, because teachers then get back to their building for a meeting in the afternoon. So maybe just coffee in the morning and then having some time. Because for me, it's the only time our whole district is together. And so staff see colleagues that they used to work with at the high school, and they're at Ryerson, and so they want to spend a little bit more time. It's hard to interrupt those conversations. So we thought if we did lunch, they could really spend some quality time.
And I know that it's difficult sometimes for a lot of us board members work, and it's hard to get away, but if you do have a chance to get to a convocation in the future, you should take advantage of that. It's really a cool event. And I just want to make another plea for everyone to sign up for the CAPE conference if you haven't already and you were planning to, or if you're considering it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. They have really good seminars and programs for board members to learn important things and bring them back for our board and district. And it's good to meet other board members from other districts and share ideas and that sort of thing. So if you haven't signed up yet and you were planning to or thinking about it, let's get signed up quickly because we're gonna miss the early bird window. So thank you. Any other board member comments? Maureen, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Sorry, I was on mute, but no, thank you very much, Seth. And thank you for the reminder about the conference. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay, item number 6, audience response to information presented. Bill, the pressure's on. You're the audience. Unless we have anyone online, of course.
Staff.
Yeah. Okay, no additional audience comments. Board of Selectmen liaison, Scott Murphy was unable to make it this evening. He had a family thing going on, so he was unable to send me, he was gonna text me a report, but I don't see it. So, okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has got line item transfers as of September 6th and budget expenditures as of September 6th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Emily,
Second.
second by Diane. It's easier when there's fewer people in the room for me to get who's. All right, any discussions on the approving the consent agenda? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
Aye.
Any abstentions? No, so that passes 7-0. Second. Okay. Next item. Board, committee, and liaison updates, reports. Starting with the curriculum and student development committee, which met this evening. Steve.
Yeah, we met today, 5:30. Members present were myself and Jen Gordon, and also present Seth, Dr. Cook, and our assistant superintendent. The agenda was, there were 3 items. One was profile of the graduate rubrics, and what that presentation was about was the profile of a graduate as a body was incorporated and adopted in around 2020. But then with COVID and so forth, the continued curricular work to incorporate the capacities and rubrics into the curriculum had been really held off. What was important, I mean, a number of things were important, but over the summer, there were 90 plus educators, teachers, coaches that worked over several weeks on curriculum. And part of that work was incorporating the profile of the graduate. And that involved bringing in some new capacities, both academic and social emotional capacities, into the curriculum. It's important to note to date that there are currently 187 curriculum units that have been worked on and approved by this board. The work that was done around profile of a graduate was within the 5 major areas. A theme that will come up throughout my presentation was the level of excitement, investment, on the part of educators in this process and their ownership of the curriculum as it continues to evolve and grow is a force that we shouldn't underestimate in terms of the value it brings, in terms of the energy of the educators and energy that then gets translated into our young people. Second part of the presentation was an extension of the profile of the graduate, but it was using global thinking as a particular example, as it was presented by our assistant superintendent. This was an area of, among the different strands of the profile, that they felt was not the strongest and needed attention. Originally, there had been 20 capacities. The program, the profile of a graduate had been reduced to a more manageable 10, with the idea of how do we make sure that this becomes infused in all of the work that we do within the school. There was some discussion by committee and board members as to what the student understanding of the value of profile of a graduate and the task and performance-based assessments, how deep the student understanding of that is, and how important it is for that understanding to evolve. But it was very clear in the presentation that there had been, a great deal of work done in terms of really looking at the kinds of tasks that would engage students and lead to the outcomes and clarify the rubrics both for teachers and for students as to what good performance on these skills looks like. Last area was curriculum adoptions for English and language arts, 4th, 5th, and 7th grade revisions. And again, this was a continuation of a process that has been going on, which is let's look at our curriculum, let's look at what we've learned, let's look at what best practice is, and bringing morphology and grammar revisions into the curriculum. It was clear in the presentation that there was a very strong focus on reading skill development, and the decision to separate out the reading skill development and the writing skill development so that they both could get the attention they needed to be able to concentrate on those skills. There was a statement that there are plans to bring more student voice to the presentation of the curriculum units on the website. That's kind of exciting. Again, what I took from the meeting, probably more than anything else, was the recurrent theme of the excitement and investment on the part of the faculty and the degree that they appreciate this district's respect for their voice and their energy in the development of the curriculum and in their craft as teachers. One of the teachers spoke to over the summer, having been involved with educators from all around the country, and how unique she felt as she talked to other educators on her ability to have such an investment in the curriculum when so many other teachers were talking about, really it just gets presented to us and then it's on us to roll it out. So it was, a very enjoyable presentation, and I think all of the board members left with the continuing respect for the energy and investment and the time that our educators put into developing and really owning what they do within the schools. There was no public comment, and the meeting adjourned at 6:30.
I would just, good report, thank you. I would just also like to emphasize that the new social emotional learning, you'll hear SEL all the time, SEL. going forward. That stands for social emotional learning. And there was an emphasis in this summer's curriculum development cycle on adding SEL curriculum in support of the whole K-12 organization and across disciplines, across all the disciplines. So I think that we are very early to the game in like really fully trying to commit to social emotional learning in addition to pure academics. I think it'll benefit our students and our school community. And I thank Gail and Jenna Guzzi and all the other teachers who worked on that for incorporating that this summer. It's really gonna start to show dividends, I think, going forward. Any other questions for Steve? Maureen, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next, Facilities Committee. Emily, they also met tonight.
Yes, we've actually had 2 meetings since our last board meeting. We met last Tuesday, August 30th, on Zoom only. As you may recall, this was to continue our discussion to cut the CIP over the next 5 years. So the committee met over Zoom along with Dr. Cook and Bill McMinn, and Seth was there. And basically we took another look through the CIP. Bill and Dr. Cook had worked together to reduce it from $27 million until a little over 5 years to about $20 million, a big drop in the first year. We talked at that meeting about how there are some components that just aren't movable, like the HVAC at Tingham High School, as you all know. We talked about spreading the Polson hardware, ADA hardware and bathrooms out over 5 years. Bill made sure to also add 4% interest each year. So that's been something that's come up in our discussions is the more we push this out, the higher expenses will be if we take that into consideration. We didn't touch anything at Brown. We did move athletics around a little bit, which I'm going to go through with you this evening. And we also then did shift all outdoor athletic lighting out to year 10, which saves about $1.2 million. Our thinking was that the outdoor lighting on the athletic fields primarily benefit the community, and while we would love to benefit the community, we have to think about our students. So that brought it down to $18 million. We discussed this a lot, and as you may recall from our last board meeting, the CIP was pretty lean to begin with. So we did talk about whether American Rescue Plan funding or grants could help with HVAC. So we met last week, and then we met again this evening to review again, and that is what you have in front of you is what we are going to vote on this evening. So the Facilities Committee did approve this revised version in front of you. This was our 3rd meeting this evening to review the CIP, see what cuts and adjustments we could be made. As you may recall, we had submitted our original 5-year plan earlier this summer at $27 million, and we received feedback that the town wants to see that cut significantly. So, like I said, you'll see here in the document in front of you, starting with Daniel Hand, it's about $4 million over 5 years. The biggest item in here is the Daniel Hand HVAC renovations. That's item 009. That's about $3.2 million. And as we've discussed at length, that work needs to be done. So that's staying there. You'll see on the next line, on the next page, Polson Middle School, Bill worked to spread out, as I said, the Polson 88 hardware and bathrooms over 5 years. So that's that PMS-005 line. We talked about, in particular the HVAC. So that's $3.2 million. If we could get some help with that from this town, possibly special appropriation or help from the undesignated fund balance, this could reduce our ask from 18 million to just under 15 million in 5 years. So Stephen did reiterate that our focus throughout this process has really been on the health and safety of our students and our staff. And the more we draw this out, the more costly these items become. And we recognize, like, looking out at year 6 through 10 of this plan, there's gonna be a lot of expense that coincides with bonding with the other projects in town. That being said, we feel that we're able to move forward this version that you have in front of us, which has been reduced from $27 million by a third to $18 million. So there was a motion to approve this to bring it to the board tonight, and we will vote on it tonight. The next step will be to the town, and then this is due to the CIP October 15th. We did discuss it, that they come back requesting more cuts. You know, we'll work together as a facilities committee. I wanted to acknowledge how flexible the facilities committee has been in having special meetings and thanking the hard work that Bill and Dr. Cook have put into trying to be creative, but also recognizing our responsibility to our facilities and our students and our staff. So that is in front of you. I'll finish my report, and then if we have any discussion. The second item tonight was to discuss having a representative from the facilities committee for interviews on building projects. So for example, Bill has put out an RFP for the mechanical systems at Polson. It's a $20 million project. So typically Bill and his department put out RFPs where the facilities committee is not always involved with that, but for projects like this one, and then other big projects coming out, the Polson Lockers, the Daniel Hand stage lighting, and the Brown School East Wing, which will be the K-1 classrooms. He felt it was important to have a representative from the facilities committee to participate in the selection of those firms. So Bill is working with Colliers. We did receive 4 proposals from 4 firms, and Bill recommends that we interview 3 firms next week. They chose not to interview the firm with a significantly higher cost. And the Colliers also has a mechanical engineer helping us. This is a pretty complicated project. So we had a motion from the committee to designate the chair or her designee to represent the facilities committee in these RFP selection interviews. We worked as a committee for the selection of the Tecton Architects for Brown School, and that worked well as a committee, but we thought having one person, we can just help Bill move along as quickly as possible. So I will participate in those, and then if I'm unable to, or if someone is super excited to participate, then I will designate that person to do so. There was no public comment. They'll also just give a quick update that the new school committee is interviewing construction managers, and they will likely have recommendations for a recommendation for the board of selectmen shortly. And then we adjourned at 7.
That the new security front entrances for Brown and
Yep,
Polson.
he gave an update, yep, on the Brown and Polson entryways. There's just a few little things here and there that we're waiting on, but overall, things are looking good. And if anyone wants to take a peek at, like, in particular, the new Polson hallway, which has been brightened up, I know the courtyard areas out front are really inviting for students. So that work went really well. And that is the end of my report. Anything that you want to add, Bill, that I missed? No. Any questions or comments from the board?
I would just add that the refacing the entrances of Polson and Brown added substantial security enhancements as well. So reminding the shop there as well. Thank you, Bill.
So we'll vote on those actions later on in this meeting. Thank you.
Maureen, did you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next report, Finance Committee, Galen.
We have not met. Our first meeting is in 2 weeks on September 20th.
You. Personnel Committee, Maureen.
Hello, everyone. We're still in our negotiations with MACE.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know. I should just have it recorded.
All right. Any questions for Maureen? Policy Committee, Diane.
We have not met, however, we have 4 policies in your packet tonight for a first read. The first policy is 60/30 school calendar. The second is policy 1150, prohibition against nicotine and cannabis use. Policy 5120.3, administration of student medications in the schools, and policy 9460, advisory committees. So I know that we're not, there's no action items tonight, but I did want to just bring up a little bit about the first policy, 60/30 school calendar, because it's been brought up in a few of our committee meetings, and it's there was a lot of discussion about it. Give me one second. So the policy committee did bring it forward for a first read to the board in a revised revision that mostly keeps the policy the same. There's some clarification if you look down in number 5 and 6. So originally it read observe Labor Day, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Thanksgiving Day, Thursday and Friday, Martin Luther King Day, Good Friday, Memorial Day as legal holidays for students. And we changed that. Well, there was a great discussion regarding the Connecticut statute. And so you don't have it in your packet. If you want to, I'm sure that we can get you a copy of it. But the Connecticut statute reads that section 1 to 4, days designated as legal holidays. And in it, it names all of the holidays that are by Connecticut law must be legal holidays for schools. And if the day is not given as a holiday or a day off from school, then the schools must hold a suitable non-sectarian educational program in observance of such holiday. The holidays named in Connecticut statute sections 1 and 4 are New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Christmas, and President's Day. And it also reads that except holidays in January and December, those days must be given as a holiday. The other ones, it's up to the Board of Ed, whether or not they hold a session of public school or they give it as a holiday. And if they hold school, then they must require a non-sectarian educational program in observance. So because those holidays were listed in the Connecticut statute, we looked at our old policy and only some of those holidays are actually stated. So in the version that we bring forward to you, the change is to observe Labor Day, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Columbus Day, Thanksgiving Day, Thursday and Friday, Christmas, New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Good Friday, Memorial Day, Independence Day as legal holidays for students. Then we added in a separate section just to clarify that Veterans Day, we observe Veterans Day by holding school-based Veterans Day observance activities. So everything that we put in is just a clarification that we are following the Connecticut statutes. Now, there's a couple other changes that have to do more with graduation ceremony being no earlier than the 180th day, and when the superintendent is going to bring the calendar to the Board of Ed for review and approval, and changed it to January. So the main question that held so much discussion was whether or not we wanted to actually name the holidays on the school calendar. And I will say that the committee, usually we all come together, we usually all decide the same thing. And in this particular case, we all did not come together to think the same thing. So we thought that we should just vote on it and bring it forward to the board so we could have a board level discussion on it, because I think that there's a lot of opinions on it and it's really outside of just the three of us on the committee. So I did want to refer you to the notes from Shipman and Goodwin, which is also in your packet. Just find that. So policy 60/30 school calendar. Shipman and Goodwin said the policy has not been revised since 2011, and so we need to review it for accuracy. And Shipman does not have a comparable policy.
And the additional notes, when we asked Chip and Goodwin to weigh in about whether or not we needed to name the names or not, they said there is no explicit requirement nor specific prohibition in Connecticut law concerning the designation of days on the school calendar. Naming the holidays in the calendar does assist in providing the community notice of the reason for school cancellation on that date and ensures that the school complies with the calendar requirements in Connecticut law, i.e. school cannot be held on legal holidays in December and January. Naming the holidays also assists in ensuring compliance with any applicable collective bargaining agreements relative to work on legal holidays. However, as indicated above, there is no legal requirement that the holiday be named in the school calendar. While a majority of school districts do name the holiday in their calendar, we identified at least one other district, Colchester, that identifies holidays as just school holiday. So, so the main discussion was, do we want to change all of the holidays on our calendar to just say no school holiday, or to keep them as they are listed in the Connecticut statute? So we don't need to have a discussion on it tonight since we are not actually having an action on this, but I wanted to bring it forward to your attention so that you could give it some consideration before the second read and think about where you stand on it. If you would like a copy of the Connecticut statute, we can get that to you. I wanted to, I don't know if I printed it out. We sent an email regarding the other schools. I don't know if you have that with you. Oh, thank you. So Wendy did some sleuthing for us and she found a comparison with Learn. So I don't know if everyone in the audience is aware of what Learn is. Learn is a RESC, which is a regional educational service center that serves 25 towns. I see on their website they say 24, but then they list 21, so one of those numbers. 25 towns and 21 school districts and 21 superintendents. And so these are all in one RESC. And so normally our holidays, we try to coordinate with everyone else in the RESC so that everyone is sort of doing the same thing. And I know that superintendents frequently discuss. So amongst the districts in Learn, 17 school districts name the specific holidays. None state Christmas. It is either winter break, winter recess, or holiday recess. Of those 17, 9 specify Columbus Day, 2 specify Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day, and 6 specify Indigenous Peoples Day. 3 districts only specify school holiday for all, and 6 districts indicate Juneteenth. So when we were discussing it in committee and moved it forward to the board, we decided that we wanted to, and again, it was a split decision. We wanted to make sure that we were in keeping with the Connecticut statute. And if it was listed as a holiday in the Connecticut statute, then we wanted to list it in our policy. And I do expect the statute to change and list, at least one more. And when that happens, we will change with it, of course. But we felt that we did not want to change the listing of all the holidays to just school holiday. And I just like on a separate note, just from my own investigation, I had Wendy pull like 5 years, I think, worth of school calendars, and we were sort of all over the place on it. We said winter holiday, we said Christmas break, we said winter break, we had winter break parentheses Christmas. I mean, there were like all sorts of variations. So although the version that we're putting forth from the policy, I like to think of it as more a working document so that we can think about it, and when we come back to do a full discussion at the second read, we can revise it to however we feel that we'll get a majority. And I would like to also say that I would hope that in changing a policy, normally we're like 9-0. And I feel like if we're really split on what to do, that maybe we wait for a change. I would like to see policies changed with a vast majority so that we're all sort of in agreement and that it's not something that's like a very close vote. So my lengthy report. End of report.
Well, I would like to first say thank you. It is a delicate subject, and you delivered a recitation of the process until now very well. Thank you. It was well stated and fairly put. So, yep, just if anybody has any questions, and it'll be up for discussion at the next meeting, not tonight.
I agree. Thank you, Dan. It was really helpful. I had a couple just questions. We've always observed the holidays, correct? Whether or not those words are listed in the policy, we always observe and abide by the Connecticut statute requirement, correct? Okay, so they're always designated as holidays, we always have, whether or not we list them is one thing. So I guess one question you just said, and I wonder about, and I'll reflect on this more too, was couldn't we say in the policy that we will observe all Connecticut statute requirements? So then if they add a holiday, we don't need to go back and forth. Like every Connecticut statute requirement, whatever, will be observed as a school holiday. And then we don't have to go back and forth as names change or as holidays are added, right?
Right.
That's sort of a catch-all that might.
So my only comment to that is that we have always observed Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur as holidays with no school for the students.
Yep.
But those are not listed in the Connecticut statute.
Got it.
So that's part of the reason that we list them under number 5 in the policy.
I see.
And also, to be honest, Shipman usually warns us against doing something like that because the presumption is that we will follow the law. So if a statute changes and requires something, we're required to follow the statute, whether or not we have it in a policy. So the statute trumps. Now, we would clean up our policy and add it anyway,
Sure.
but it would come more as a, one of our one read, this is a legal change type of deals rather than a debate, most likely.
And also I would say, so this policy, this is school calendar, when I was listing them, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to list it on the calendar itself. This is just saying that we are observing these days. And so I wanted to include everything that was in a Connecticut statute, since we kind of have some, but not all, but we also have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So I didn't want to leave it out completely because of the 2 Jewish holidays that we do observe. And then since we bothered to put in some that were in a Connecticut statute, I felt like it's either like all or nothing.
I
Yeah.
get that.
So I was trying to be complete and.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that everything listed there, we have to list on
This.
calendar.
Right.
But we actually do, except for Christmas and New Year's, because it is encompassed in the winter break or whatever term we used that particular year. So, I don't think it's so important that we get the name exactly right, but I would like to just put this to bed and move on. We have like a gazillion policies to go through, and it's not that it's not important, but there are many things that are, perhaps more important.
Other comments or questions at this point? Maureen, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, Diane, you offered to send out the Connecticut statute. If you could send that out to all of us, that would be wonderful.
I'll get Wendy right on it.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
All right, is that it for the report?
I think.
Oh,
Can I-
sorry,
can I
go
add
ahead.
one more? I'm
Sure.
I'm looking at this year's calendar just to see how I use it. And I do think I can see the appeal of just saying like, no school and not having to give the reason necessarily, like, we list things and we say /no school, /no school, /no school. And it might just be like, it's definitely simpler, I think, and cleaner to have that listed, because in summer, election day /Christmas day /no school. And I don't know if we need all that information. So I think just looking at how parents might use this as well. I mean, I know when Christmas is, I don't need a calendar to tell me. So I'm not sure.
I always need the calendar to tell me when President's Day is.
Right.
Well, and I think there's certain things too, like specifically election day, there's a lot of people that just forget about election day, and the more places that it is, the more reminders, people will get, you know, even though there's sometimes signage around town and, you know, and this goes the same for any different holiday, but sometimes people need reminders in different places for.
But also in
like
the
things to
past,
work on.
not every election day did we have no school. Sometimes we had school on an election day, but if it was a major election day, then we didn't. So, you know. and
Or
going-
only certain schools were closed.
Right,
etc.
right.
The ones where there was actual voting. So, all right, well, I'm gonna hold my powder dry until next week. But thank you very much, that was a good report. Okay, Learn Liaison, Mary Ann is unable to be with us today, she's with family, so hopefully she's having a good time. Comes back to us safely, but I believe there was not a Learn meeting anyway, so. Town American Rescue Plan Funding Committee, Emily,
We have not met since my last update. We're meeting this Thursday.
thank you. Okay, and also Mary Ann is on the, is our liaison to the Town Marijuana Advisory Committee. And I believe they have not met. She was going to try and find out from Bruce if there was another date set, but there had not been the last that I heard. So, and she said she would tell me if it came up. So I'm gonna work on the assumption that she would have told us that they're waiting to set another date. All right, so now we move on to the action agenda, exciting portion of our agenda. So 11, action item, motion to approve the use of the baseball field closest to the school at Brown School for the new kindergarten / first grade playground at Brown School. I would like maybe Bill and Emily to give a little background on that before we entertain the actual motion, and then we can have discussion about it and go into a vote. So did you want to start?
Sure, I'll just, so we discussed this at our August 23rd Facilities Committee meeting. And Bill had reported to us, he was working on the location and the layout, because we will be adding a new playground for the little students at Brown School, so a kindergarten, first grade playground. Bill recommended and believes that the best place will be currently where an unused baseball field is, right behind the building, very close to the kindergarten first wing. It has not been used for many years, and funding for this is CIP. Bill had checked with the town, Little League, Beach and Rec, and did want our support that we're supportive of this plan to use that field adjacent to the school for the new playground. So it's maybe just be voting and saying that we approve that use. Bill, do you want to add anything to that?
No, the only thing I'd like to add is, I did check with town and Frank, the principal, and the athletic director, who's brand new. My experience is that the field is, not being used. It's overgrown. There was a big fence in right field that fell over some years back. I put a 4-foot fence up because it wasn't being used. There had been suggesting that they might want to use it for Little League at some future time. We do have 2 fields there, and if we do need to improve it if we're gonna ever use it. So if we do want to sink money into improving fields, I would think we'd want to move it down the other end where we have more room. And this is adjacent to the school. It's adjacent to the wing that we're going to prepare for the kindergarten and first grade. It's right outside. It just makes perfect sense. We did look at all alternative locations. It's just not really feasible economically. Anything's possible. I could build anything anywhere if you give me enough money and time. But the most practical sense is this spot. So I just think that we should formally tell everybody, my plan in the schedule would be to do it right before we move the kindergartners in there, so it's brand new the summer of 25.
The only things I would add are that it is tucked behind the school, which is an important security convention. And it also has the best sight lines for supervision, which is also a security issue, but it's also a safety issue for the kids. So it really is very fortunate that we have that spot so close up to the school, but behind the school to use. So does anyone have any further questions?
Just out of curiosity, what is underneath that? once you decide to put in a playground, are we gonna be surprised by any sort of strange drainage issues or?
So what's under it right now is a baseball field, so it's clay, or, infield material and some topsoil in the grass area, but substantially, infield mix. Over the years, we've been adding to it when we did use it. So it's substantial, mostly infield mix and then some grass and some topsoil.
So you don't anticipate any like major like ledge outcropping that?
No, I
Costs a lot for
anticipate
demolition.
minimal cost. That's why we picked this spot. It's flat, but we will have to remove the clay. We'll have to put some drainage in and stone if we have to prepare for any kind of field. And, any kind of playground. So we will have to do some preparation, but the cost will be minimum compared to if we pick some of the other spots that are not level, that might have some potential drainage issues.
So at this point, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of the baseball field closest to the school at Brown School for a new kindergarten/first grade playground at Brown School.
Second.
Jan, seconded by Diane, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Hi.
Opposed, nay? Any abstentions? 7-0, thank you. Carries 7-0. Okay, Bill, don't leave your seat. We have 3 more items with your name all over them. And Emily, get ready too. The next action item 12, is a motion to support the town of Madison's potential donation to the Madison Land Trust of a portion of land adjacent to the new school property at Daniel Hand High School. So Emily, if you would kind of give the background again on that, Bill, back up, that'd be great.
Yep, so this land is adjacent to the Neck River. It is currently a budding land trust property. And so we discussed donating that land from the town, well, giving permission to the town to give it to the land trust, specifying that the school can continue to have environmental classes, access to the Neck River, pedestrian crossing, and so on. So that did come out of committee. There were also some issues, Bill, if you want to talk about like septic considerations.
Sure. So we own a significant parcel. I call it the Green Hill campus. It's no formal process, but we own the Bauer Farm, Jeffrey School. We own the high school, Polson. Over the years, we've combined all our properties. And because we own so much land and we have so many schools on all these lands, the regulatory issues are very cumbersome for us to get permits for septic. So when we acquired this new parcel, the Jansen piece, I knew that was an issue, and we prepared for trying to deal with the state. We met with the state. We hired a professional engineer who specializes in septic design, to help us with the regulatory issues. We've been testing the soils for over a year prior to buying the property. So we put a lot of work into it. And one of the meetings I had with the state, DEEP, the town health department, says if you can parcel off a piece in between, so you separate the 2 parcels, then you won't need to go through our regulatory process. You can just go through the state health department. So there's no intention of doing anything but what's appropriate, design the septic system to the highest standard. We have that same person that helped me with the regulatory as a consultant for the engineering firm that's doing the design. And we've met with the health department. We'll meet and exceed, health standards and make a proper septic system. But if we can regulatory give a parcel of land in between to a non-town government department, and it's done all the time privately. If I owned the company, I just made another LLC and changed the name to a parcel, that would meet the rule well. It's commonly done, but we're a municipality. So if the town decides to give it to the land trust and the land trust decides to take it, they abut the Neck River. One of their philosophies is to protect the Neck River and preserve land. I think this would be a very good deal for the town and the land trust. We get to use educational purposes for, we're not gonna fill the wetlands, we're not gonna do anything negative to the wetlands, but we might wanna have a little path so the kids can see the educational function. We might wanna have a crossing at some day across it. It's very unlikely, but it's potential. The crossing is very big. The Neck River is a floodway. There's a lot of issues with that. So probably more information than you wanted to know, but if we can make this happen, it will save the town of Madison significant long-term money in the regulatory process. Not only short-term money to meet and exceed the DEEP standards relative to the timeframe to get it, but then the long-term standards that we have to show compliance on it. And that means we have to hire someone to manage it versus if we just follow the state health code, which we manage all our other sites and have no issues. It will be a much sleeker, faster process and less regulatory. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much, and I'm happy to answer more questions.
I mean, the long and the short of it is, and I gleaned this from being on the building committee, it is much more expensive to build a large water treatment plant compared to a smaller one that would be regulated by the health department. If you have to build a large one that's regulated by DEEP, then it takes longer to get all the approvals, and it's also much more expensive, and it's much more time consuming and all of that. So if we give up that little strip of land that would also have a beneficial environmental impact, then we also, and DEEP actually came to us and tapped us on the shoulder and said, hey, why don't you consider doing this? It'll save you money. We can build a really good smaller system instead of a more expensive, really good bigger system. And everyone's happy. And the one thing that Bill was alluding to is potentially building, connecting the properties to that wetland there, which is going to be hard to do, but the town would include an easement right, I believe, in the grant of the property along the river to the land trust. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
That's the intention. We're still discussing it with the land trust. Aaron Mannix, our town planner, has been helping us negotiate with the land trust on what they would like. We're just starting this. I've talked to the board of selectmen informally, but the land that the high school is on is technically, abuts this piece, and we'd be giving land away that the Board of Education sort of controls. So I think the formality would be that you sanction it, but then the Board of Selectmen can, approve it, and then it will go to a town meeting.
Yeah.
Town meeting is, a form of government that, we have.
So the vote here really is just for the board to say, we kind of countenance this, we're cool with it.
How big is this piece of land?
It runs the length of
The length of
new
the,
school
of the property,
north, south, more or less.
yeah. I do
Like
have,
a little
The course of the
little
next river.
sliver sort of thing?
I do have a map, and I highlighted, I didn't know if you didn't want to get into the details, but so here's the high school site, the high school Olson, and here's the Neck River. This is the land trust piece, and this is the length of the property. So I don't know, there's a number right there. So it's say 700 feet long, and we're talking about maybe a 200-foot wide.
So it's just like a little strip.
Yeah, we're talking,
It's like a grassy strip.
Yeah, well,
A wetland strip.
yeah. So we really haven't put a number on it yet. We're still discussing how wide of a strip. So I highlighted in yellow is the area, and this is where the land trust owns below, and here's the Neck River. Any other questions to that? Sure. So here's the new parcel on.
So this is really like a ways down the
Here's
road.
where we
but this
are,
is just the
Olson.
beginning.
And our crop, so this is all woods and wetlands. And this piece comes down here, this is the road on Mungertown, so this is the new parcel site.
It's really
This
up to
yellow
the town.
highlighted areas.
We're just
are
sort of
talking
passing our
about
blessing.
area.
We're just saying, yeah,
Oh,
we're okay with it.
And so what we're negotiating here is just
Right.
how wide
Yes,
that would be.
yes,
Okay.
we're discussing with the land trust now.
Okay.
We didn't really, we don't have a specific number.
Familiar with it.
Do you want to just real quick hold it up in front of the camera, just so
Sure.
you can see?
I don't think they're gonna be able to see
You
it.
can see the highlighted yellow.
Oh my God.
A
Seriously.
little bit further, a little bit. There you go, right there.
Can we do
That's good.
no?
Thank you.
Let me take the CIP up there.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Might have to zoom in a little on that.
Oh, Bill, you're.
I'm happy to,
Yeah.
close the map. You know, right at this point, it's a preliminary map and we're just discussing, you know, that was a combination of maps that we put together.
Yeah, and I guess we don't ordinarily like to take a vote on something that's theoretical, but this is not our property to give, it's the town's. And it's the town's decision, you know, it's our use of the property. And it would benefit the Board of Ed, so I think, as Bill pointed out, you know, it's probably to our benefit to kind of give a general approval and let the Board of Selectmen do what they're gonna do.
Seth asked for that motion.
Yeah, okay. So are you ready, Diane?
I am ready.
I am looking for a motion
Like
to
an
support,
auctioneer.
yeah. I'm looking for a motion to support the town of Madison's potential donation to the Madison Land Trust of a portion of land adjacent to the new school in Daniel.
Oh,
Diane. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Any abstentions? No. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, hang on, Bill, here we go. Action item 13, I am looking for a motion to approve the town of Madison's emergency management plan to build a storage building adjacent to the facilities department building. Period. And so I'm gonna go to Emily and then Bill to explain that a little bit.
The motion pretty much says it all. We discussed the last meeting. Bill is in support of this plan, about 700 to 800 square feet.
So the emergency, you know, since COVID, we stocked up on our emergency supplies. As you can imagine, we're all sort of shorthanded. We've got a lot of stuff. It's everywhere. They're looking for a place to store it. The emergency management department, Sam DeBurr, who's the director, has obtained, I think, $200,000 from the Board of Selectmen. They wanted to put it on the town garage site. If you're familiar with the town garage, I've come up with a plan to combine a bunch of people on that site, which really just blew the plan up and made it really too expensive, giving you way more than you want. So there's a spot on our facilities building that's flat, level, and they can put a nice storage building adjacent or right up above our building, and they could put their supplies there. We're figuring around 700 to 800 square feet. The theory is they build it, and then in the future, I say 5+ years, plus or minus, they build a new facility at the town garage. They'll move it out, and then we could use the building for storage, is the theory. We're also talking about putting a shelter in the Polson School and putting a generator in. So my thoughts are, it's always gonna be needed for that emergency for either the town or the shelter. So I think it's gonna be permanently storage for emergency operations. And I see that as a good thing. It won't affect our operation. We have the room there. It's a flat spot, perfectly built, and they have the funds and they need a place to store this, you know, that affects us all. So I really think it's a positive. I didn't come up with the idea, but I was not against it, and I support it as long as the Board of Ed, you know, you control the building I'm in, and it's part of your facilities. And we've been doing more joint stuff with the town, as you know, so.
Any questions? Do you have any pictures you can hold up in front of me?
No. No, this was all only, you know, concept.
Picture of a shed there you can pull.
I actually have a site plan with a drawing, but we haven't agreed on the actual dimensions of the building, so that's why it's a little big.
All right, Well, if there are no further questions, can I get a motion to approve the Town of Madison's emergency management plan to build a storage building adjacent to the facilities department building?
So
We have to flip for it. I'm gonna give this one to Diane. Motion by Diane, seconded by Jen. Any further discussion? Maureen, no, seeing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Oh,
Any
exciting
abstentions?
facility stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Motion carries 7-0. All right, the last one you're needed for, Bill, and then you get to go home really early. Action item number 14, I'll be calling for a motion to approve the revised CIP plan. It was discussed in Emily's facilities report, but I'm going to give a quick prelude to this, and we have Bill here for any further questions and discussion.
Yep, the revised plan that we reviewed this evening at the facilities committee and voted to move forward to full board of ed has a reduction of about 1/3 from our original 5-year plan totaling $27 million to this revised plan totaling $18,233,191. As we discussed, we spent a good amount of time and effort going through this plan and making every best effort to make decisions where possible, keeping in mind the safety, health, security, and functioning of our students, staff, and facilities. And this is where we land, recognizing too that a big portion of this is the much needed HVAC repairs at Daniel Hand, which are $3.2 million on their own. But we recommend moving forward with this revision to 10.
Any questions while we have Bill? Any, all right, let me call the motion and then we can discuss. I need a motion to approve the revised CIP plan.
So moved.
Second.
That's right, Galen. Seconded by Diane. All right, any discussion? Any further discussion on this or questions for Bill? Maureen, do you have anything?
I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Maureen, do you have any questions or
No,
comments?
No, thank you. Sorry, my internet went out.
It's okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I think we've discussed it a lot. And it's a tough position to be in, and we're trying to do the best we can. And, I don't expect that this will be the end of it, but I think we've made a really good faith effort. And I'm hoping that we're close to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here. Okay, so all in favor of the motion to approve the revised CIP plan, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes 7-0 again. Thank you. And I need a motion to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2022 Board of Ed meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
seconded by Diane. Any discussion, any points need to be raised about the minutes? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the minutes of August 23rd, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We'll take Maureen's as an aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. Any old business? Any future agenda items? Discuss. Meetings or dates of importance are attached, and we call for adjournment. Motion.
So moved.
Diane.
Second.
And seconded by
Jen.
Jen. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. Abstentions? 7-0 to adjourn. Thank you.
Longest facility stuff is fun.